2, 1. Hey everyone, Yoiston here, and I hope you all are doing well, wherever you are in Middle-earth. I am joined once more by my brother-at-arms, the King of Gondor himself, Royan. How are you doing, man? And happy 50th podcast.
Happy 50th podcast. Hooray. That's a lot of months. We only do one a month.
Yeah, true. So for those, everybody, thank you all so much for joining us in the live stream. Angel, Marion Baggins, Balrog of Morgoth, a lot of patrons and just some viewers as well. Thank you all so much for being here. So the Westernesse podcast, this is our Patreon / YouTube membership exclusive podcast. We've been, as Royan said, we've been doing it for now 50 months, which is weird to say out loud, but a little over 4 years. And yeah, I mean, this has always been like so much fun. Every month we get on, take questions, topics, comments that you all have, talk it through. We've got our outline pulled up with a bunch of questions from Patreon and from our YouTube members. We go through those, and then we go through the recent news that has come out over the past month. And so we've got all of that lined up. We've got a ton of news. If you all want to see our other podcasts, future podcasts, other exclusive events, sometimes we play like Battle for Middle-earth, Lord of the Rings Online with our patrons, YouTube members. We haven't done that in a while, but anything like that, or just to support the channel, please consider joining our Patreon, linked in the description. And thank you all so much for being here. It's crazy that we've made it to 50. I thought this would be a cool way to celebrate that, doing it live and kind of letting everybody see how it goes. Royan.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah. Let's go.
Let's do it. All right. So these questions come from patrons on our Discord, YouTube members, all of that. Marion Baggins, who I see in the comments right now. She asks, if you had to meet Tolkien and or Christopher Tolkien to ask any questions, what would they be? Ryan, I'm gonna let you do that first.
So I have always been a huge fan of more of the like fantastical beasts in Middle Earth. So I think I would more so base my questions all basically just world building questions about like, what kind of creatures live where, are there any more creatures that aren't mentioned that you dreamt up? I'm certain there are, just based on who J.R.R. Tolkien was as a person. I'm just a huge fan of like the little lore of like the more natural world. I don't get me wrong, I still love the lore surrounding the peoples and
I get it. The animals are more important. I understand.
Well, it's not just the animals, but also like the regions, like
that's fair.
The general like geography as well as all that stuff. I'm just a huge fan, and so I love to learn more about how like regions changed over time, how ecosystems changed, and then you can apply that to the people that live there as well. So just a fun, that's just my personal that's what I love most.
I like that. And like I think Christopher Tolkien or J.R.R. Tolkien, both of them would be able to tell you a lot about like the things that we don't know about what's north of Fordwythe, or what is east of Rune, or what is south of Far Harad, and like the more definitely canonical ideas. Like we have some ideas based on like some of Tolkien's earlier notes about that stuff, but I imagine you'd have some interesting answers about the geography and all of that. In a similar kind of vein, I would ask what stories Tolkien or Christopher Tolkien had like seen from his father's notes. What stories did Tolkien want to tell but didn't, or thought about telling in the Legendarium and kind of omitted?
What got cut from the Silmarillion, basically?
Pretty much, yeah, exactly. What got cut from the Silmarillion? Because, we see some of these inspirations, and I think there are definitely some more unfinished stories, hence unfinished tales and so forth, but I know he probably would have wanted to work more on the Fall of Gondolin, on Tuor and his story. I think Turin was pretty much done, at least compared with Tuor. all of that. Baron and Luthien, again, pretty much done. But I'm curious if there were any other sorts of, I don't know, sorts of stories, little things here or there, or even big stories, right? What were his plans for the new Shadow, that sort of thing?
Yeah, the Tolkien's, they strike me as people that would have, even if they're not complete stories and, they're not like, all the way through, just like little anecdotes about, because there's a lot in the Legendarium that we just don't have a whole lot of information about, and I imagine that most everybody at least has something going on. Like I can't imagine Tolkien referencing like just a name, and because we think about like things like the nameless things, that's like the number one question that we deal with a lot. It's like, oh, what do you think on the nameless things? Like, well, I don't know. We got nothing to go on. We got like a throwaway line from Gandalf. That's it.
Yeah, that's true. I wonder what he would say. It's like you could ask Tolkien only one question, and you're like, "What are the nameless things?" And he's like, "I don't know." Next, like next person, please.
Where'd come from? I don't know.
I couldn't tell you, bud. Yeah, I think Marion, I hope that answers your question. Yeah, so Ryan would ask about the geography that we don't know, the animals, that sort of thing, right? I would ask about the sorts of stories that he left out. Yeah, I'm very curious about what his idea was for a new Shadow. If I could only ask him a couple things about that, it'd be like, who is his villain gonna be, and who's maybe the protagonist? Like Aragorn's grandson, or just some random Gondorian. But really, who was going to be the antagonist at the end of the day? Would it have been like the Mouth of Sauron? Would it have been just somebody new? No idea.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine it would be somebody new, but
probably. But we know Tolkien. It's like Sauron, Smaug was somebody new, but then Smaug got connected into the story, and then Sauron is connected to the First Age and the Silmarillion, and all of his books ended up connected. So I'd be curious if it was somebody absolutely new, but yeah, awesome. Anything else on that, Ryan?
No, let's go on to our next one.
Cool. Balrog of Morgoth asks, so many people seem to very strongly believe that orcs were absolutely not originally corrupted and tortured elves. It's very believed that. Yet the Silmarillion seems very clear in Of the Coming of the Elves that it's basically one of two options. Either the orcs were indeed originally corrupted captive elves, or the orcs were created separately and merely based on studies and experiments on captive elves. I would say the Silmarillion is pretty hard canon, which is why I believe there are way more than only a handful of Balrogs. So why do so many people vehemently oppose that explanation? What do you think of it, and why? Roy,
is there like a ton of people that are so against? This is more news to me. I didn't realize there was like just a bunch of people. For me, it's always been my personal headcanon is that there were elves originally captured and corrupted into the first orcs, and then the rest of the orcs are descended from them.
That's what I think.
I don't think every orc is an elf. I think the original orcs were elves, and like they've just mutated on down that chain like that. That's always been my headcanon for it. If there are people who don't like, the number one reason I can think of is because it's kind of sad to think about that there are elves out there who received that kind of torture and became that kind of being. But
yeah,
when you start peeling back part of Legendarians, it gets pretty sad pretty quickly. So
it's true. Hey, Nerd of the Rings, good to see you, Matt. Yeah, I would say that with the orcs, yeah, I agree that the original one. So I want to say that of the first elves, there were around like 144 of them or so. And I don't know how many of them were originally corrupted, or if it was like their children, but it was definitely some of the first elves who were taken and corrupted by Morgoth. But after that, I think it would have been very unfeasible for Morgoth to like keep capturing elves.
Every time he needs a new orc, he's got to go find some. There's just not that many elves.
No, and then imagine like the Battle of Pelennor Fields. You've got like, more than 10,000 orcs on the field. It's like all of them were elves. No way. They had to have been descended, especially because of that whole question of, how do orcs reproduce? And they reproduce in the same way that the children of Eru produce. So there are female orcs. We'll get to that conversation about the Rings of Power later. But there are female orcs because they have to reproduce, at least if we consider that to be canon. Yes, so I would say if you kind of make them two distinct different things, that those orcs, the original ones were elves for a bit. However, I think their souls left their bodies and their bodies were corrupted. So were they still elves? I would disagree. And that is also a different conversation of, could orcs be good? Could orcs be redeemed? I don't think so, because I see them more as like hollow vessels of pure corruption, of pure evil, of pure perversion. I don't really see them as people that still have willpower, that still have freedom, that still have conscientiousness, because their spirit, the elven spirit, left their bodies, and then their bodies are no longer elven anyway. They were pretty much, for all intents and purposes, destroyed. So, yeah.
While I came in, he clarified a little bit, saying that he didn't mean that like all orcs are elves, more specifically that the first orcs were elves, and I'm with you on that one. I do think that the first, as we mentioned, the first orcs that ever were they were originally elves, and I really do I like that take that you have there, Yosin, about it, where in the process of becoming an orc, the elf kind of ceases to be.
Yeah. I mean, from a philosophical and like moral point of view, I think that's really one of the only ways you can really like delegate that, because then, well, again, we'll talk about this when we talk about the Rings of Power news, but you fast forward to Aragorn just like cutting heads off of orcs, Elendil, all of this stuff, swinging through, and it's like all of those guys were victims. What do you do?
Forget Aragorn, like all these wars between elves and orcs where they're just mowing them down. It's like, yeah, man, well that was my buddy Chris. He got nabbed last week.
Yeah, he had a family back in Mordor. What are you doing? Yeah, and honestly, again, from a moral point of view, from a philosophical point of view, I feel like that's one of the only ways we can sort of gather this. And I don't think Tolkien meant for orcs or trolls or urukai or even really goblins to be these more sympathetic characters. And Rings of Power, it seems like might do that, but I know other projects kind of have, because Lord of the Rings Online, there are a couple quests, especially in the more recent expansions and updates, where it's like, you have some goblins that you have to work with, or goblins that you have to kind of be friends with, but you still don't trust, orcs that you have to help out in Gundabad. It's kind of a weird, more postmodern take, for sure.
Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War did something similar as well, where, the orcs, they have like real characters, personalities, which kind of humanizes them a little bit, makes them slightly less evil.
Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, they're still orcs. I don't know.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't think that orcs can truly ever be quote unquote good.
Yeah.
But I don't know if really any of the mortal beings could ever be completely good.
Sure, but
I mean, that's more just philosophy stuff.
Yeah. Well, and that's an interesting point to bring up, because it's like not even framed in a way that's like, obviously we do see the evils of mankind, of mortals, even in dwarves. We see some evils happen here and there.
Sorry, I just like the way you said that.
The dwarves, yeah. But there is something to be said of the kinslayings being very like independent, right? Every war between elves and orcs, as you mentioned earlier, those would actually be theoretically kinslayings if we apply this logic to it, if there's still some version of elves within these orcs. So I would say, to get back to the original question, I would say that it's more of this modern sort of take that might oppose orcs being like, we don't like to think about it, right? We don't like to think about these elves, these beautiful, kind, intelligent beings being like tortured, corrupted, to where they want to leave their bodies, like they want to die to some degree, and then like orcs being soulless husks of the elves. But I do think to some degree that is the case. So I hope that answers your question, Balrog of Morgoth. Royan, are we ready for the next one?
Yeah, what's next?
Randy Barner, he's asking us about the wars that sort of created the Dead Marshes. So This one's pretty easy. When it comes to the Second Age, we look at the War of the Last Alliance. That's really what created the Dead Marshes, because during the battle of the battle that took place outside the Black Gate, the Battle of Dagorlad, you have two elven hosts that they decided to push forward pretty much without total unison. If this were like a raid, you've got like 3 or 4 guys that just run in, and it's like, okay, you're dead now because the healer wasn't with you. That's pretty much what they did. You have King Amdir of Lendoranond, and you have King Orifer of Greenwood, and you have these guys run forward. They get scattered. King Amdir, he gets pushed to what became the Dead Marshes. That battle continued. All the elves were routed, stuck, and destroyed. And then you have the elves of Orifer, who were already pretty much killed on the Dagorlad. And that battle right there, that Battle of Dagorlad, is really what created the Dead Marshes. And it came out of some incompetence on behalf of those kings of elves. I think there was something between them and High King Gilgalad, where it was like, we're Sindar, we're not going to listen to this Noldor, or this Noldo. And it's like, there could have been that tension. I've seen stories play out where that was kind of the case in the Lord of the Rings Online, but pretty much, yeah, incompetence, disconnection, lack of communication. The squad didn't squad up, if you get what I mean.
There was no grouping.
No grouping
in the mid game.
And then they got pushed and slammed. So that was it. Anything else to add to that one, Ryan?
No, you totally got the history of that. I was just, it was fun. I'm not great at Elvish, so I was thinking Daggerlad. I was like, what does that translate to? I looked up, just battlefield, basically.
I didn't know that.
Like, oh,
That's good.
it's the Battle of Battlefield.
That makes sense. Yeah, Dagger, yeah. Battle of Battlefield, classic. I mean, that's the same thing with Legolas Greenleaf. It's Greenleaf.
Yep.
That's hilarious. Before we get to news here, well, actually, even before that, we'll take some questions from the live chat, which obviously, since our podcasts are normally pre-recorded, we don't normally do. But our last kind of topic or question here, I'm not quite sure as the context of this, but Gamerkeeper asks us about Morgoth's pits. I want to say that he's thinking about the pits of Angband and and how those were kind of maybe dug out, what happened there, etc. So Angband is interesting because we don't, even in comparison to Mordor, we don't know that much about Angband. Atumno, which was Morgoth's first fortress, we know even less, I would say. We know of some elves, at least one man, Beren, who came to the gates of Morgoth. Beren and Luthien actually descended into Angband and went deeper. I don't know if they went to the pits exactly, but went deeper. We have Gwyndor of Turin's story of the fall of Nargothrond and all of that. Gwyndor was captured during the Nirnaeth or Noediad, during the Battle of Unnumbered Tears, and he was brought to work in the pits. So I think the pits, it's almost like a Minecraft internment camp, from what I can tell. That may not be.
Why do you say Minecraft?
I say Minecraft because it was a lot of mining and forging. It was a lot of imagine it, in Minecraft it's like never dig down, never dig straight down. I feel like those pits were just dug straight down and like maybe to the sides and everything. And then I'm pretty sure they were just because Morgoth didn't have great smiths. That's where
you know what? This is the yeah. Thank you for. Missed something.
Oh, we good?
No, I was back to Minecraft. This is the new headcanon, everybody. Angband was just like one of your first Minecraft houses when you just start on a new server. So it's just like kind of like a hole in like the side of a mountain or in the ground, and then you straight dig in your mine. It's like your mine comes up into the middle of your living room. You got like chests over there and like a bed. Like this, everyone's like first crummy house while you're still getting all your building materials. Like this, that's what Angband was, dirt. Except really big.
Really big and really metallic. And I think that's what it comes down to, is these pits were places to mine ore and then have forges for Morgoth's army. And because he didn't really have great craftsmen, other than Sauron, I would say, but he's not gonna be like, Sauron, you're gonna craft 100,000 swords.
I need you to outfit my entire army.
Yeah. So he captured elves. And that was always the fear for a lot of, especially the Noldor, was to be captured, brought to the pits, to mine, to work, to craft things for your enemies. Baron von Haggis says Angband is a cheat-enabled Minecraft server. That's true.
Yeah, dude, he's got He's got an X-ray. All right, watch out.
Yeah, he's got X-ray. So I think that's what those are, right? And again, referring kind of to the ambiguity of this topic and the question. If we're talking about Morgoth fighting Fingolfin, he also made pits in the ground. I don't know if that, like, how big they were, pits in the ground when he smashed the ground with Grond, but I don't really know how these
could
would...
also those could mostly just be like flowery language from our frame narrative, like
Very true.
they're not real like super deep pits, more just like big craters and
Big craters, yeah.
oh, they were like pits in the ground.
Yeah, true. That's a great point, Ryan. Yeah. So, thanks, Canadian Fantasy Corner. Smash that like button. Thank you. I never say it like that, but I appreciate it.
Come on, guys.
This art that's about to come up is from Battle for Middle-earth, by the way. The last art was from Lord of the Rings Online. Yeah, thank you all so much for being here. So, yeah, those are kind of Morgoth's pits. I hope that Minecraft analogy from Royan and I made sense, but that's what I kind of imagine.
It may have made sense to somebody.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
That's what counts. I think, if that's an interesting question, is like, who had better materials to work with, who had better armor and swords and all of that, like orcs of Morgoth or orcs of Sauron? I would probably have to say the orcs of Morgoth, because there were a lot of enslaved elves.
Yeah, I agree. With orcs of Sauron, mostly you have orcs making smithing for other orcs. Right?
Yeah, that's from what we can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. However, Sauron was much more of a craftsman than Morgoth was, so maybe I doubt it.
But he was also like, a little occupied.
Yeah. Yeah, he wasn't like that nice boss who's like, your technique is all wrong, Orc. Let me
show you.
Yeah, you're going to lift your elbow up a little bit more when you smash the plate armor, and cool. So let's go back through our live chat before we get to the news section. I mean, we just slammed right through those. So we'll go to the live stream and find some
who wants
questions.
Ask us a question.
Yeah.
There's a mild delay. I think I have a bigger delay because I'm not the boss.
The boss. Red Team Review. Good to see you, Carmine. I hope you're doing well, bud. Let's see here. I think there were some towards the beginning, but yeah, let us know in the live stream, live chat, what questions you have. Typically, how we do our podcast is so we'll just take the monthly. Honestly, this section goes anywhere from like 20 minutes to like 45 usually, and then before the news. But
the news sometimes takes really long and sometimes takes really short. There's really no in between.
Yeah.
We're either in and out in 10, 15 minutes, or we're there for an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks so much for the super chat, Comic Nut 64. Having a long day, fellas. Thanks for showing up. Like the Oathbreakers making things better. Well, I'm sorry you're having a tough day, but yeah, hopefully this makes it a little bit better. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it, man. Hope the day gets better. Let's see. Good question. Okay. What were the Pelennor Fields? This comes from Plixiplox. Hope I said that right. I hope that wasn't actually a profanity in any way. What were the Pelennor Fields used for? Farming. I imagine a sizable population lived there. Yeah, so actually it's not really shown that much in the movies, but the Pelennor Fields actually had a lot of crofts, a lot of different farms all about, because, within Minas Tirith there couldn't be that much agriculture, there couldn't be that much growing, so a lot of these farms had to feed the people of the city, and I imagine they probably imported goods from South and Western Gondor as well. Yeah, Royan, you remember in Lord of the Rings Online, all those burning...
Yeah, I was going to mention that in Lord of the Rings Online, when you get to Old Arnor, most of it is on fire, but you can see that it's mostly farmland at that point, and most of the surrounding areas are farmland as well. So if you go out north to Old Anorian, there's mostly small villages and mild towns. That's the path that the Rohirrim went through. And so basically, for Gondor, you have like West and South Gondor with Pelargir and Dol Amroth, and in Old Arnor you have Minas Tirith and
Hmm.
Osgiliath. Everything else is either a small farming village or a slightly smaller farming village
Yeah,
outside of those bigger cities.
that's a
Uh,
good way to put it.
and then you get into Ithilien, and it's mostly just, man, this place is pretty.
Yeah, wow, look at all these flowers. It's really dark though.
Some rangers around, but
Yeah. um yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, it would suck like, you're living it up. You're right outside the White City. It's like you have this farm, you're outside of a big city, but you still got your own land, your own space and everything. But then you look to the east and it's like, "Oh, Osgiliath's fallen. We got to go and everything's gone." That'd be really really rough. So, um let's see. Social account says, Yoyston, what do you think Middle Earth would look like if the Witch King took the One Ring and betrayed Sauron? Would it just be a land of undead? So we have to remember that assuming the Witch King had the willpower to do something like this, since Sauron very much controlled him, a lot of his magic some of it was definitely innate, for sure. Some of it was probably from his Númenorian nature and all of that. But, we also have to remember that like Sauron was much more powerful and gave the Witch King power. So, yeah, it probably wouldn't go
that's.
well. I'd say a lot of necromancy.
Do you feel like if the Witch King like got out of line, do you think Sauron could just take him out at any moment, or does he have any sort of agency?
Ooh, that's
Like,
interesting.
because the Witch King is an undead shade because of Sauron, do you feel like Sauron has any control over that in that way, or
That's interesting. So I would say it comes down to a couple, or mostly one thing, and I might have to address this in my next video, which is going to be about what if Sauron got the One Ring back, and like
oh boy,
how he would have wiped out Middle Earth, pretty much, like what strategies and tactics he would have. But
right? I played that in Lord of the Rings Conquest. Okay, I was
I
there.
no, I actually just played that campaign of Conquest last night. I was watching hockey and I was like, I gotta play through this again, see if it sparks any ideas that I can like cite in my next video. But
Your
uh,
idea of being the Balrog that's rampaging in the Shire, I
Sure.
remember that. That was me, bro.
Yeah. But a question that comes down to, and I know Nerd of the Rings in his version of this video, he addressed this, but does Sauron hold the rings of the Nine, or do the Nine hold their own rings? There is actually contradicting information there. I want to say in the Council of Elrond, or maybe a little after, and many. No, maybe it was many meetings, but I think it was Council of Elrond, where Elrond says that he holds the Nine in Barad-dûr. So if that's the case, I would say the Witch King has almost no agency at all. But if the Witch King holds his ring, then I would say he has at least a little bit more, but especially since Sauron doesn't have the One Ring right then. But it's interesting, yeah. Pretty much, yeah. If he took it, I feel like there'd be kind of like with between Saruman and Sauron, there'd be a mini conflict. Sauron would still get the ring back in the end, but yes. We'll take a few more. Marilyn Morrowind, I'm trying to adjust the audio as well. Just let me know if that's better. Thanks
I
for letting me know.
think they said that when you last did your adjustment, it got much better. So
Oh, good. Okay, good. Um, Dwarven Dawn. Let's see. Where was this? This question was funny. Hold on.
which one are you looking at here?
There, Yoyston. Okay, social account says Yoyston. How short do you think the Lord of the Rings books
I
would
get
be
it.
if Merry and Pippin had a sniper rifle? And then Stimson J-Cat says a Númenorian sniper rifle. I honestly think the story would be very short because they'd accidentally like kill Frodo with it, Pippin especially.
I
like,
disagree strongly.
Oh, really? Oh, really?
I think the story it explodes in length because now we
Ooh.
have a whole nother subplot that of just two idiots with a very powerful weapon in a time where nobody's prepared for it. They're gonna get into
That's
some
fair.
hijinks. They're getting into trouble. There's gonna be like a whole book dedicated. It's that old meme where it's like, the book's actually huge, and it's like
and then yeah,
98% of it is trying to get the sniper rifle away from them. It's like, yeah, man, we got rid of Sauron, but now we have There's your new shadow antagonist.
Yeah,
right
that's
there.
what I was about to say. I was like, Mr. Tolkien, Professor Tolkien. Who's the antagonist? Who's going to be Pippin with the sniper rifle next? What?
Next question.
Any context?
I will not elaborate
Yeah.
further.
Oh my gosh. All right, last question here before we move on to news, and there's a lot of news we'll talk about. But one video to rule them all asks, what is your favorite elf? For me, it's gonna be my boy Finrod.
Classic.
Yeah, trying to be everybody's friend. I'll be real. If the show, so I know there's been reports and stuff of like Galadriel's brother or Finrod in particular, because she had a couple brothers, but Finrod in particular might be in the show, and some of these ideas that maybe the antagonist is her fallen, corrupted brother. If they take Finrod and corrupt him, make him evil, I will flip out.
Be big sad.
Dude, I will flip out on Amazon. Every review I'll be like, you took one of the purest parts of Tolkien's work, Finrod, the first guy who met with men, friend of dwarves, friend of all these other elves. Sure, maybe there was some bad because he did move into Nargothrond, which took the petty dwarves' land. Sure, definitely, maybe some evil that you could philosophize there. But if they make him like this Dark Lord character or something like that, I will flip out on Amazon in all my reviews. It won't. Yeah, I'm gonna be mad. I'll still acknowledge maybe some of the other good stuff about the show, but that would be a glaring issue.
That would be what every video we make would just be devolving back into complaining about that.
Yeah, absolutely. But he's my favorite, followed closely by Círdan the Shipwright. How about you, Ryan?
Okay, so my favorite is Fingolfin, absolute Chad, beast amongst men and elves. But my follow-up is Feanor, and now chill out. I'm not saying Feanor did nothing wrong. Okay, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I'm okay with it. You know what? Like, you think you can fix him? I'll take him as he is. All right, he can be homeless.
Fix him. You don't need to fix him. He's perfect as he. No.
The genocide is a part of him, and you know what? I've decided it's funny. So.
Yeah.
No, but really, I just think Feanor is a super interesting, and honestly,
he's like a catalyst
character.
Yeah.
That I vibe with that. Whether or not we'd actually be friends, probably not. You know,
fair.
Generally against kinslaying.
Yeah.
I can't say that, Your Honor.
Yeah. Kinslaying, big. He had some big rage for sure. No, I agree. As far as interesting characters go, I'd say he's the most interesting elf for sure. Because there are moments where I'm like reading his stuff and I'm like, dude, I want Feanor to succeed, but then I flip the page and he does something
negative,
very evil, and I'm like, screw you, Feanor.
You want to talk about shortening the books? All right, how do we shorten the Legendarium? Feanor gets a therapist. All right, guys, we're done. It's over.
It's over. Yeah, he got some help. You see those memes of like guys will, like that one for Eternals or whatever. Guys will literally fly into the sun rather than get a therapist, and it's like guys will literally make war on the Dark Lord and commit kinslaying instead of getting a therapist. No, he's a good character though. He's definitely one of the most interesting. Like if I had to say top 3 interesting characters of the Legendarium, just by their their multi-dimensional sort of aspects and all of that, their catalysm for the story, I would say Feanor, Turin, and probably Boromir in some regards for sure.
Boromir's the homie.
He is, yeah. One video to rule them all says Círdan and Maithros. Great choices. Yeah, very interesting characters as well. But yeah, sorry, Royan, what were you saying with your 3?
Oh, my third. I get to pick a third?
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. I had already moved my brain to the next topic. I gotta go back.
Or I mean the 3 most interesting characters for you in the Legendarium. Yeah.
Oh, in all I thought we were still picking 3 elves. I was like, whoa.
Oh yeah, no, it would get to too many elves. There's so many.
Of all the 3 favorite characters, I love my boy Faramir. Give him a chance to show his quality.
Yeah, he's a very interesting character. Oh,
Like I said, Feanor is up there just because of how much I just love the depth of character involved.
uh-huh.
Um, as for third character, I don't know, man.
Yeah, for me,
Probably Aragorn.
yeah, like for me, Aragorn again, like all these characters are super interesting. For me though, if I'm saying like on the level of Fëanor, where it's like I'm not rooting for you, but I'm not actively also completely rooting against you. It's like Boromir, I'm like rooting for you, but I don't want you to take the ring, but I want you to figure your stuff out. But you know,
Like I'd be cool with him getting the ring if I thought it worked, but I don't think it works. That's the problem.
yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. Yeah, for me, it's like if I had to say, I think my favorite overall characters in the Legendarium, it'd be Aragorn, Sam, and then probably Finrod after.
Oh, Sam! I forgot about Sam, bro.
Sam, but again, like he's a super well developed, great protagonist, but like from that multi-dimensional sort of, oh wow,
Be careful what you say here.
I know, I have to choose my words carefully. He would
Forget about what the audience will. I'll fight you.
fair enough.
If you say anything bad about Sam, just I think everybody can see where you're going. Just stop talking.
Ryan, like those interesting neutral aligned characters in D&D.
Yeah.
Like I feel like
We haven't even mentioned Turin. If we're
no,
talking about that.
no, I did. My three
Oh, okay.
my three interesting is like Fëanor, Turin, and Boromir is what I said. But
Oh, I didn't hear you say Turin. Okay.
yeah, no, he's really right there. He's really interesting. So, yeah. Anyway, no, Sam's our boy, man. Sam's our guy. He's a king, a king among hobbits. Alrighty, let's move on to the news section, my friends. So first up, I've got a Moria background in here somewhere. Give me 1 second. We'll get there. Moria, there it is. Moria, a new game announced out of nowhere. It seems like out of thin air. But we're so happy to see it. It's a survival, like forest arc,
It's Valheim.
Valheim kind of game, where you have, I think it's up to 8 co-op dwarves returning to Moria in the early 4th Age, and they're trying to like survive. They're trying to rebuild some things, trying to build a home, fight off some orcs. I am so excited for this game.
This game does look so good.
I know Mr. Corey Olsen, the Tolkien professor, he's working on it too. That's what I've heard at least, is that he's collaborating with the characters or the writers. There we go. Yeah, sorry, Ryan, what were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying that this game, it looks so good. It looks so exciting, and I really do think honestly, it reminds me a lot of Valheim, but also it's enough of its own thing where I don't really know how to compare it to other games, and
Right?
it just looks so good. It's gonna come out like a year or less than a year now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think next summer is what they're thinking. And again, that's where it's like it came out of nowhere. Like the Gollum game, it feels like has been in development for at least like a year and a half, if not more. But we even heard about that when Amazon was going to make that new Lord of the Rings MMO. We heard about that years before it was due to release, and then this one, it's like they've already got a trailer for it and everything like that. In the description, I should have the Return to Moria website, and I think their trailers they're up there. But amazing! I can't wait. Even if there's no real story, like survival games don't really need them per se.
There will be a story just based on the trailer.
True, and if Corey Olsen, that's true. If Corey Olsen's involved, there probably will be a trailer. The Tolkien professor, a story. Which would be awesome. Like, I can't wait to play that on the channel, play that over the Discord server with patrons and YouTube members, and we'll have some fun there for sure. Yeah, I'm just so excited. So, we don't have a ton about it, but Ryan, does this look like it's your kind of game?
I mean, I'm not super huge into like survival games and stuff like that, but when you're playing with a group of friends, it's amazing how fast time can pass.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And so I am super looking forward to this. I'd love to play this with you, Yoisten. And
yeah, for sure. So excited.
Okay. What's up next?
All right. So staying kind of in the realm of video games here, we've got. I actually didn't link this, but before we go to the Lord of the Rings Online stuff, real fast, I want to say that the Gollum game is releasing September 1st, which is one day before the Amazon show. That's what I've seen, at least on Twitter. So, got that to look forward to. The trailers, again, it looks interesting. I'm excited to check it out. I'm still like not quite sure what the kind of the thesis of this game is going to be, what the overall deep, meaningful points will be, but I'm excited to give it a shot, do a lore review at the very least on it for the channel. Yeah, cool. So next we have Lord of the Rings Online. They've been doing like seasonal producers letters. So everybody in the comments, I see you guys talking about Amazon. We're going to get to Amazon here real soon. But first, let's talk about something that isn't as controversial. So, real fast here, we have, over the summer, Eladon and Elrohir will be having a quest line, kind of like the one Bilbo got in last year's. It's like a continuation of these main characters, and I want to say they're going from Rivendell to Lothlorien. It's set during the Shadows of Angmar quest line. Treasure Boogan. Did you ever do that, Royan? Like, these little treasure goblins? I didn't either, so I think maybe it's a skirmish thing. I'm not quite sure. But Farmer's Fair, and then pretty much the meat of what I wanted to talk about here. Ryan, what do you think about the new race class combos? So you've got stout axes and dwarves, and normal dwarves will be able to become captains and wardens. You've got elves and high elves that will be able to become burglars. Hobbits, who will become lore masters and champions, and then humans, runekeepers. What do you think about that?
Honestly, I'm all for expanding some of the roles of these races. You know, for the MMOs, it's kind of normal for MMOs. It started with WoW to have like races and classes be kind of divided. The joke that I made was we were very close to just getting rid of racism altogether here, and just, just give the Hobbit captain and just let's call it a day. But,
yeah, give dwarves lore masters.
I like, some of the ones that they haven't done. They kind of make sense to me. I don't know why dwarves can't be lore masters though, other than like we just really haven't seen one yet in the game or anyone close to it, I would think.
Actually, even in some of the updates and like the expansions and stuff, I see some dwarves walking around with staves or sticks, I think.
Well, yeah, but those are walking sticks. But you see any dwarves? The only dwarves that I can think of that are like super into like animals. There's the guy from there's the guy from south of Gondomar. Rashi, I think is his name.
Yeah, he's like a fisher or whatever. Oh, yeah. Oh, no, okay, I see. Yep, the lynx. Yep. The lynx guy.
I think it's Thrashy's Lost or something. I'm not. Do not quote me on that. It's been a long time since I've been over there. I'm trying to remember. I think it's Thrashy's Lodge. That name might be incorrect though. But there's a dwarf over there who's like, there's a little quest line with the lynx.
True.
Like other than that, I don't remember the last time that a dwarf was being friends with an animal. Seen a lot of dwarves fight cave claws and other wild creatures. All of Moria is just anything that's not a dwarf dies.
Actually, that's a really fair point. In the Silmarillion, like in the very deep lore, you have after Aule like made the dwarves, Aule's wife Yavanna was like, the trees are screwed, and then she was like, I want to create the Ents, and then it's like, okay, you can create the Ents. Lore masters literally have a power where they call upon the Ents to smash their target. So it'd be kind of weird, it'd be kind of antithetical, like dwarves being able to do that. But at the same time, as stuff like brawlers exist, right? When they introduce brawlers as all races, and it's like you can go in there and just punch up an armored troll. Yeah, high elf brawler who's gonna punch a troll in heavy armor and then like plate.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the brawler class in general. We've talked about that before.
Yeah, for sure. The aesthetic of it's meh, but
like. Talking about antithetical, I agree with like having the Hobbit be captain. It just kind of goes against Hobbit nature as we understand it. I understand if you really have a character that is a Hobbit, you really want to play a captain. That's disappointing to you, but
yeah,
it's just one of those thematic things where it doesn't make a lot of sense in the lore. So
yeah, them commanding Oathbreakers, all of that kind of thing. I get it too.
Now dwarves can command Oathbreakers, right?
True, but with some of their recent kind of, again, in the context of Lord of the Rings Online, I could see it. In the context of the Greater Legendarium, not really. But yeah, I honestly wouldn't be upset with a Hobbit captain. If they decided, except obviously for the Bjorning, who has to be a Bjorning race or whatever, if they decided all classes could be all races, at this point, Lord of the Rings Online, while its lore and while its storyline is like obviously amazing, in my opinion, it's the best adaptation of Tolkien's works in general, like movie, show, otherwise, but it's like probably the closest to it. Still does make some lore breaking and changing things. This wouldn't be the biggest of them, because you do have Hobbit captains in the Legendarium. You have Merry and Pippin when they return to the Shire, and Pippin who rallies all of the Tooklanders, and
You're right.
you know, like Merry blowing his horn and commanding the army against the brigands. It's like it happens. Again, it's the Oathbreakers that kind of throw things out of whack, but every class has that like couple skills where it's like, really, could this person do this? So it wouldn't. I have a feeling they might come around to it. Maybe they're just working on these guys to begin with, but then Dwarf Lore Master, like maybe they'll do it again and unlock all race class combinations except obviously the Bjorning, just to allow for more play styles, more alts to be made, right? Maybe they want like new tunes to be created this time in August, and then next August they do it again, and then people create more new characters and play through again. I'm not sure. So, yeah, for me it's exciting.
I agree. I like it in general.
Yeah, me too. Burglars being elves. When you replace burglar with rogue, that makes a lot more sense. It's like, oh, okay, they're stealthy scout types. Like, elves definitely had that. Burglars, what else is there? Dwarves being wardens. Sure, they're agile and stuff, but again, at this point, dwarves travel all over the world. Makes sense. Hobbits could already be guardians. They could already be kind of warlike. So, champions, lore masters. Bilbo was kind of a lore master in his own way. Not so much in the animal stuff, but more in the lore stuff. So, yeah, that doesn't really bother me. All right, one thing before we move on, Ryan. Hobbit Runekeepers.
Well, the Runekeeper class in general just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, true.
Okay, we've been over this one before. If we're going straight off of like lore, that one doesn't make sense. That's
true.
That's something that would get an angry comment if it was on an Amazon video now. Like,
yeah,
if Amazon did that, somebody be upset. But LOTRO did it like 20 years ago, so we're just kind of over it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair point.
The Runekeeper class has never made sense with the soft magic of LOTRO. Honestly, a lot of the Lore Master hasn't made a lot of sense either.
True.
But we like that one more because it's closer to...
Yeah, it feels a little more alchemist. Like, you could argue that it's like materials, not magic,
Also, just in theme stuff, it's more about just like, nature and harmony, and that's somewhat a big theme of Lord of the Rings. There's like a whole character arc around that. I don't know. His name's Tree something. I don't know. But
yeah, that's fair.
But yeah. So don't look at me with the Runekeeper and be like, it doesn't make sense with a Hobbit. It doesn't make sense with any of them.
That's fair. Yeah, that's a good point.
The elf is the only one that is even like somewhat like, if you squint hard enough, maybe it makes sense because elves are described as quote unquote magical.
True. That's very, very good point. Very good point. So, I'm still in favor of some other classes coming to Lord of the Rings Online. A ranger kind of class. Potentially. I would do them differently. I would make the ranger a lot more like Tolkienian for sure. Some sort of class that is almost like a cleric, I think would make sense. But again, you would have to have a lot of Silmarillion rights to do that. So.
I remember your very first, maybe not your very first, but the very first post that I saw from your account was about the sheriff class.
Yeah. Maybe we'll see that. Maybe someday. I would make a lot of revisions.
It just sounds like a Hobbit captain. So
yeah, exactly.
I could be into that.
I would make a lot of changes to that idea for certain. So. Anyway, War of the Rohirrim, again, before we get to Amazon, we're saving Amazon for last. We'll see how that goes. But, War of the Rohirrim, apparently Miranda Otto is going to
That
be...
is the big news as far as actors go that I care about.
Yeah.
I don't know any other actors, but I do know her.
Absolutely, right? Eowyn is going to return for this to some capacity in some way.
She's the narrator.
Yeah, okay, I thought so. I wonder if she will do any more, if they'll feature her at all, though. But
I doubt it because I think that this is set with Helm Hammer's hand. So it wouldn't make sense for her to appear in the. I think she's just the narrator. And she's playing as Eowyn as the narrator, is my prediction. This is my bold prediction. We have a frame narrative. Episode 1, we're zooming in. It's Eowyn telling somebody a story of her people. And then we're going to go back in time, and then we're going to have the plot. That's my bold prediction. There are other... but yeah, the news is that some actors were announced, as well as... I only see the one concept art. I don't know if there's more. But some of the actors... Brian Cox is a well-known actor that I don't know. Gaia Wise is an actress that... these some of the bigger names. I think she was in Vikings. Gaia Wise was.
I
think
that would make sense. Okay.
Other than that, there's like a lot of different names. I'll just run through them. Lorraine Ashbourne. Yeah, I don't know that name. Yazdan Kafori, Benjamin Wainwright, Lawrence Ubong Williams, Sean Dooley. I do know Sean Dooley because I looked him up. He was The Witcher. He was King Foltest, old King Foltest, from The Witcher season 1.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Michael Wildman, Jude Woodlike, Bilal Hosna, and Janine Davitsky. I don't know a lot of those actors. I said I know Sean Dooley because I saw the Witcher next to him, and I looked him up. I was like, oh, I've seen The Witcher. But
yeah.
These are the people that have been announced. I don't believe that we know any roles other than Eowyn, and Brian Cox is going to play Helm Hammerhand.
That's sweet.
And from what I understand, Brian Cox is the biggest name here. He's been in a lot. I did take a brief look at him. He's been in a lot of movies. Not a lot of them that I'd be able to pick him out of.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I've seen Red, but I don't remember Red, if that makes sense. Yeah, so that's that. The concept art, though, Yoyston, what do you think about that? Take a peek at that.
Yeah, oh my gosh, that looks so good. That looks amazing.
It looks so good, right?
It does. Like, the amount of passion that's going into this project is just...
Tell me this isn't
incredible.
The most exciting thing that we've had announced.
Yeah, you're right. It's
Lord of the Rings, like, on Prime, has been taking over the sphere for the last 6 years or whatever.
Yeah.
But this little project has come out of left field, and it's already just such a darling. I love it.
Yeah, I'm between this one and the Moria game for me. They're both...
I need to see more about the Moria game to
for
get
sure.
super hype about it.
For sure. Yeah, the writing, right, Philippa Boyens is one of the writing staff, I guess, one of the head honchos on this, and she was one of the 3 writers of the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. So excited. And like Angel said, I hope, I kind of hope Eowyn maybe is framing this story like she's telling this to her son or something, like hers and Faramir's son. Like, that would be cool. She might just be narrating, which, again, very happy with. That is sweet. But I'm curious if they do more with her in particular. So yeah, we'll see. We will see. So yeah, very excited. Alrighty. Real fast.
Amazon time.
I do want to mention that there's going to be a new Tolkien book, The Fall of Númenor. We'll save the Amazon thing for last. So, The Fall of Númenor. I didn't expect this. Yeah, sorry, Ryan, I have this in the wrong order.
No, you're good.
But Tolkien Society, they have an article about this, that The Fall of Númenor is going to be published this November, I believe. Yep, November 10th. And... oh, that's exciting. If you look at the concept art by Alan Lee, pretty sure you can see Sauron, just down there right before the wave is about to take him. He's on the top of the Colosseum.
That sucks for him.
Yeah, it's really rough. But hopefully this supplements the show with the real lore, and we get more notes, we get more ideas that Tolkien had about Numenor, because for as big as Numenor was, it's pretty bare bones in terms of lore and everything, I will say. But yeah, Ryan, what are your thoughts?
I think it's a little late for the release of this book to have any sway over the writing team of the show. I
Yeah,
expect
oh, for
now
sure.
that even if the first season doesn't even get close to the actual fall of Numenor, I do expect them to have a general plan going out. I mean, I sure hope so. We've learned from other projects, Star Wars, that if you don't have a complete written plan out at the start, you can really flop it at the end.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping they have a plan. I don't know if it would be have any impact on that. I am, you know, I do love just seeing more expansion on the lore in general. I always am a fan of it,
Yeah.
and my always take is always like if even if something that because this is technically written by J.R.R. Tolkien, but it's put together by Brian Sibley. Like if he's putting any things in there that are like somewhat questionable, I've always just been like I'll just ignore it if I don't like it. If it's not like hard canon, I'm just gonna ignore it
Yeah.
if it's not good. That's always been my take. So in general, I'm just a huge fan of expansions in all forms usually. And
Yeah.
this is you kind of nailed it on this. This is a really important story to the lore, and it's not just like a really important story to like the Silmarillion, like the Fall of Gondolin is. This is a really important to the story of the Lord of the Rings because
Yeah.
basically this is the preset. I would argue maybe more like the fall of the petty kingdoms is a little bit more of like the lineup before the War of the Ring, but this one's right there.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope.
Heavily impactful. So
Yeah, I mean, like, we got a little bit more Numenorian lore, like the Numenorian dancing bears in Nature of Middle Earth last year, which was awesome. But I'm hoping that this kind of expands, like, exactly. You have 5 or 6 different regions of Numenor if you count the central one. You have all these regions, and like stories really take place in like 2 of them. The region of the west, I want to say it's Andustar, and the east, which I can't even remember the name off the top of my head, which is like how much it shows up, right? It's Hyrostar or something like that, like the King's Land.
these are all on the island, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. These are the different regions of the island, but you don't really have a ton of stories in these different places. So I'm excited that hopefully we get more about like Tar Aldarion the Mariner, um, stuff like that, because his story ends very very abruptly. So
Yeah, do you think there will be any expansion on the potential like where all the dark Numenorians went or the black
oh,
Numenorians?
that would be sweet. I hope so. Though I'm sure it'll be mentioned. If this is Fall of Numenor, it's like who caused the Fall of Numenor? The Black Numenorians and Sauron. So I would
Where are
hope.
they now?
Yeah, we catch up with them 20 years later. Yeah, I hope they talk about Umbar a little bit. Some of the settlements that the Black Numenorians made. That'd be awesome. Um, cool. Yeah, so that is something else to look forward to, which will be sweet. Finally, we'll come to our Rings of Power discussion. So, recently they have released from IGN. I want to say they were the first people that released this. The Rings of Power orcs and how they look. Ryan, what's your take? How do these orcs look to you?
Okay, so if you haven't heard, there's like I think there's five. One, two, three. Yeah, I think one, two, three. No, there's six. There's six images that at least I have found, and they're still images in pretty high quality, like lots of pixels here, uh, of just various orcs from I'm assuming season one. And as far as costuming goes, I love it.
Yeah,
I love the disheveled makeshift armor that they're working with. You have just a high diversity of what looks like bone, scrap metal, looks like hide almost in
yeah,
picture 3 and 4. Maybe there's some scales. You can even see in picture 4 of 6. Do you have it up,
Yep.
Yosin?
Yep.
Okay. You see this orc in the front? Look at his chest piece. Look at the eyes on it.
Ooh, that's
That's a
sweet.
cool little detail. All right.
That
These are the
is.
things that I I since the first couple images, been kind of I've been kind of excited for the costuming part of this show so far.
Yeah.
I think that whoever's in charge of that is kind of just going off, and
Yeah.
I'm here for
They've
that.
got the budget. They're gonna make it happen. You know.
I would love to see. I love to see small, cute little details like that. Um, so as I was talking to Yosin a little bit about this earlier today, with still images, it's not quite easy to tell what could be CGI and what could be practical effects. I'm I'm a bigger fan of practical effects than CGI. And the reason why is because CGI it can look fine on day of release, or it can even look good on day of release, but even 2 years later, it looks kind of jank.
Yeah.
And I mean, just look at the Hobbit movies for that.
True. And
uh,
even from like an acting point of view, my goodness, like the amount of energy you can put in as an actor while in the costume itself and all of that versus like, okay, this is all green screen around us. I am green, and you're looking at this like little prosthetic head or something. That's all you have to go off of. Or in some cases, not even that. See
yeah.
Ian McKellen in The Hobbit when it was like him with all these green balls, tennis balls, green screen, all this stuff, and then he said, this isn't why I became an actor. Just it enhances really everything, but it's a lot more work to do real prosthetics.
Yeah, but CGI is also super expensive. So
That's true. That's true.
It's kind of
At least good CGI is for sure.
I'm hoping that they are spending more time and money on prosthetics and makeup and making practical orcs than just deciding, oh, we're just going to CGI them. Like, I hope that of the massive budget of the show, they're not just blowing it on CGI, because I don't like CGI. That's just a personal opinion.
For sure.
Anyways, back to the point that I was going for, because I got lost there. With the still images, it's hard for me to tell whether or not these are practical or CG, because it's a still image, it's not moving. But they look practical, and that excites me. That makes me feel pretty good. But there's also some of these shots where it's like, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'd really have to see it moving. I'm not an expert, so I really have to see it moving to try to recognize it.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely. And you can cover it up in Photoshop and all that if it's just a still image.
But this is the part of this is the kind of stuff with the show that I kind of like hearing about. This actually makes me excited because it's just like, yo, man, there's orcs in the show. Isn't that cool? I was like, yeah, man. I was hoping there's orcs in the show.
Kind of has to be.
There's nothing that makes me upset. There's nothing that makes me nervous about this because there's orcs in the show. It's like, all right, that's a quality release right there. Way to go, fair. Amazon. Way to drop something that doesn't make me anxious.
Very true. These guys look so good. Even in picture 5 of 6 from this IGN article, you can see this elvish helmet, and I'm like curious how they're gonna play with the elves becoming orcs, all of that kind of stuff. But
they will, but maybe
that
could just be an elvish helmet that he just scavenged.
Because... That's true. So let's talk about the conversation of there's going to be recently they've talked about how the Númenorian army is going to be like 50% women, 50% men. It's going to be orcs, men and elves, or men and women or whatever. Just to kind of showcase that. Again, with the lore, it's actually if I have the idea that orcs multiply in the same way as elves and men, then of course they're going to be female orcs. But
yeah,
is the humanity of orcs something we should be exploring in the same way as the Númenorians? Because it makes sense to have certain, Númenorian women in the army. I mean, they're all like probably 7 feet tall, like 250 pounds of muscle.
Is there anything? I don't think there's anything in text that specifically says that like it was. Honestly, I've always just kind of assumed that when you have like a race of superhumans, when it gets to that point, like, and everybody's buff and strong, I don't think there's anything in there that specifically mentions any real differences, like whether or not the the Númenorian military was mostly male or all male or anything like that. So that's a liberty that I can live with. As far as the orcs, in general, I don't know how much they're actually this. Reading through this article, it seems like maybe they're kind of over exaggerating the importance of like work time.
Yeah.
Like that's just what the topic of this article is, so they're kind of going into it. I would not expect that us to talk a lot about orcs in the show. They are the antagonists. They spend the entire time being the antagonists, but they're not really the big antagonists. They're just the grunts. So
Yeah. There are some things in this article that kind of worry me a little bit. So Wilson here. Let's see, what's the full name? Jamie Wilson, head of the Rings of Power prosthetic department. Again, this is this could just be from a costumer's point of view, something like that. But Wilson says everyone thought, yay, they've been wiped off Middle Earth, but really they regressed into the dark in small little groups and hid away, lived in tunnels and sort of under Middle Earth because the only way that they could hide, because of course they were hunted for so long. So this is really them coming back out as they reform under a so-called new leader who's going to lead them forward. Let's see. Later on, they say, there's some female orcs that I truly loved, she said, but there's one orc in particular who's very, very tall and strong, who's been a particularly enjoyable fight with one of our elven characters that I suspect will be, or hope, will be a favorite among fans. I just hope that favorite among fans, are they trying to humanize this? This isn't something that I
hope
would
this is
do.
More Lurtz than Azog, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Lurtz was awesome, and he was in the movie for like 10 minutes.
but like that was enough. I mean,
that was enough.
Screen. Darth Maul was on screen for like 6 minutes, but he became a fan favorite character so much that they brought him back from the dead.
Exactly.
I'm hoping that it's that kind of thing, and not necessarily like. I would not expect. I'm hoping that we're not going to have like the Azog plot in The Hobbit, where we just have scenes completely dedicated to orcs talking about each other in a really grovelly voice.
Yeah.
But I just didn't care. So I'm hoping that's not what this is about. And more so, we could just have, if there's just like a tall orc who's super cool and super strong and he fights somebody in a fight, like, all right, I'm sold. That's Lurtz. That's
for sure.
But that's all I really got to say about that. I mean, I'm mainly focused on the images, and the images make me feel better. So
they do. This has been one of the good marketing choices that they've made.
Yeah, this is the kind of thing that. Who's ready to complain about marketing? Amazon marketing.
I am always ready.
I am. This show was announced when I was in 8th grade, right?
No. We graduated high school. It was 2017. Yeah.
No way.
November of 2017.
No, not when the show. When the show was their first, like, maybe we're making a show. I thought I heard a rumor about this when I was in 8th grade, but maybe.
Oh, really? Dang. No, they first announced that they were doing something. Second Age was like 2017, I think.
No, what I'm talking about was long before they said anything about Second Age. It's like, maybe there's a big project coming that Amazon is gonna.
Wow!
And then I remember it was like years of nothing. Anyways, so this has been living rent free in my head for the better part of a decade here, and it's so easy to build hype by just releasing small things on a regular basis. Okay, an image. We have 6 orc images here. You want to build hype? It's super easy to just like release an image a day for 6 days, or even an image a week for 6 weeks. I just don't understand why I've been for so long I've had nothing, and now I have a lot of stuff, and I don't even like all of it now. I'm just complaining at this point. I have no point to this.
No, right. and I feel that, like, again, the internet, and this is going on the internet, so take it as the internet will, I suppose. That's all I can say. But they'll try to love something, they'll try to hate something, and a lot of these reasons to love or hate it are both valid. Like, I get the criticisms, but even though, for instance, I get the criticisms about The Hobbit, I still love The Hobbit the movies in their own way. Um, and it's partially nostalgia. It's partially who I was, how old I was, like when I saw the movies. It's all these other things that people don't really take into account. It's the movie experience too. So with this Amazon show, if this is what brings people into Tolkien's works, like Peter Jackson did for me and you, it's like maybe, maybe fair enough. Like, we're 2 months out. I haven't seen anything to really make me super excited for the show or super dread it. Know I'm gonna hate it, because I don't know I'm gonna hate it. It hasn't come out yet, so I'm really waiting on that. But the marketing has been just awful, just like almost objectively. Obviously, everything's like in this regard is subjective, but almost objectively awful, because like Royan says, they'll talk about it and then they won't talk about it for like 2 years. Grimdark says 2019 he thinks was the Second Age announcement. I remember them talking about an Aragorn movie or Aragorn show in 2017, but then in November,
rumors or something. Maybe I'm getting stuff mixed between the Hobbit films coming out and the first rumors of a TV show.
Yeah, rumors.
There was a rumor about an Aragorn movie, and then there was a rumor about an Aragorn show.
Yeah,
and I think that may have come into talk. And I think you guys are right. I think 2017 was the first time that I remember.
Well, that's the first time we got something absolutely solid about it, because I remember I made a video on it way back when, November of 2017. But it's how Amazon's like, all right, we're gonna release this teaser that doesn't really tell anything to the people who like the lore, right? To the Tolkien fans, it won't really tell them much, and to general audiences, it really won't tell them much either. It was very mid, I feel like, for all parties involved. Again, that's obviously subjective, but the marketing part that I'm like, what are you guys doing? It's like, if you're trying to appeal to the Tolkien fans, then give us a trailer that's really close to the lore. Give us a show that's really close to the lore. Do things on Tolkien Reading Day. Have an interview with the showrunners on Tolkien Reading Day, and it's like, hey, what are your guys' favorite parts of the Legendarium? And then, one of them is like, oh, I really love the Children of Hurin, and here's why. And somebody else is like, oh, I love the War of Wrath and Eärendil and his ship and his voyage. I love all of that. That would have been like, okay, these guys are making the show. Perfect. But they don't do any of that. And that would literally, like, I could shoot that in 2 hours and have it on YouTube. Like, it's weird. I'm just a YouTuber. I don't even have any formal training in any of this. I just am a fan of the books.
No, they're definitely following some sort of, I even want to say like they're following a sort of formula that is very common, but it's not all that common, I feel like, because they're not even following a marketing formula for like a non Lord of the Rings property or non-fantasy property. They're just kind of doing their own thing, and they did basically the same thing with Wheel of Time.
And
which was
saw how that.
I got into the Wheel of Time. I got into that fandom, and I read all those books basically at the end, right before the show came out. I didn't even know there was a show coming out when I was reading the books. But that's the kind of thing where it's like, they don't do anything, and then it all comes out at once, and then there's the first episode, which I feel like they should spread out more. And, you mentioned the trailer, which gives me range to complain about that more. I hate the way the trailers are shot in general, and that goes across like all genres of TV
absolutely.
shows and movies. I'm tired of like a slideshow of half-second reactions between the ensemble cast with an Inception music going in the background for 16 seconds. Like, I'm tired of that. I'm tired of it. I feel like the best teaser trailers are when we just have like a very short little narrative story. You have like a character or two doing something or talking about something for 65 or for like 50 seconds, and then we're done. Like, I just like that way more. And I don't know. That's why I felt like when the trailer came out, I wasn't disappointed because I didn't expect anything, but I wasn't excited either.
Yeah, for sure. Like, they have Howard Shore, they have Bear McCreary. If nothing else, I'm looking forward to the music that comes from this show, because I know that'll be good. Like, I'm almost 100% positive. If the music is like not really up to par, it's not then I'll be really heartbroken. Obviously, if the show's bad, I'll be heartbroken, but in a different way. It's like I'm not. The bar is really high for the music. Everything else, the bar is much lower. Yeah, I'm just. Yeah, and going.
For me, it's music. It's general like artistic of the world, like the way that settings are drawn out, the way that
Yeah.
we see like the landscapes and things like that. Because this is what I loved from like Two Towers when
Oh
you have the
yeah.
300s running across Rohan and you just have those helicopter shots. That stuff was nice. Um,
Yeah, it was.
I
Those
want
shots.
more of these like beautiful landscapes and fantastical locations. I'm also, like I mentioned, I'm really excited so far with a lot of the costuming decisions, whether it's armor, random peasant clothes, or like, nice, like, fancy clothes. They seem to be nailing it across the board so far, as
Yeah.
far as just costumes go. The only one that's weird is the not Witch King
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with him, but we also really haven't seen him, so. Uh,
True. True. I just it's weird, right? So they do these marketing things of like because yeah, honestly, if my expectations for this show were the same that I have like for Peter Jackson's movie, like yeah, the show has a really high bar in all of those categories, like the landscapes, the stories, the characters, the acting, the writing, the producing, the directing, all of these things will just be very high bar. I'm not sure. I've been disappointed too much in the last couple of years by certain shows and certain movies to have so high a bar, but I also understand that for some people this will be their first introduction into Middle Earth. So hopefully for me that's where it's like it's just I hope it's just good at least. It's just good, you know. It doesn't have to be Peter
I
Jackson.
can
But
deal with some weird lore choices. I can deal with some things that, maybe they bug me a little bit on like
yeah,
a super nerd point. But if the show is like, if it's a good story with good acting and like a nice message, like
yeah,
I'll be blown away at this point because that's how low my bar is.
yeah. Honestly,
There's
it's
been so many bad adaptations in like the last 5 years or so.
exactly.
For me, the big disappointments were Halo. Halo was a huge
Oh, I
disappointment
bet, man. That was like
from
your
a lore
go-to.
perspective. I
Yeah.
love Halo, and that was such a disappointment for me. The Wheel of Time show is also, I it was like I wouldn't call it terrible, but I wouldn't quite call it mid either. It was in the low tier.
Yeah, it was in the
Uh,
low mid category. I understand.
it started off all right. It started off kind of shaky, got all right, and then went kind of back to shaky. So
Yeah. No, Rosie Gamgee, you're right. It's it's not the highest bar for sure, but I'm cautiously optimistic for it. I remain to be. I've had no reason to be like to know for certain, right? Even if they're, it could be that their marketing is trash, and then the show comes out and it's like, oh, this is nothing like the trailer was. You know, could be like, wow, this was just amazing. So we'll see. But even the things of like having YouTubers come and say, or any content creator really, and just be like, hey, watch the trailer and talk about things under some, some contracts, I'm sure, and all of this kind of stuff. It's like, why would you do that, but then not also release a trailer so that we can be like, wow, that's amazing. And then these influencers are also saying it's amazing. Like we can see with our own eyes, and then we can also see what they're saying, and that there's more of that to be seen. But no, it's like purely based off of a word, purely based off of certain other things. And it's like based off of their influence, based off of their channels. And it's like, you guys don't back them up with a trailer. You don't back them up with things like how is anyone supposed to trust these sources? And again, no shade on the sources. I really like a lot of the YouTubers and know a lot of them. A lot of them are my friends, but I just wish that's part of why I just wish Amazon was a little kinder to them, a little nicer, and offered them like, hey, yeah, you guys go make your videos on what you were shown or whatever, but then we'll also release a trailer that backs up what you're saying. A lot of what you talk about will be in those trailers, and then if they're really confident that what they're giving us is that good, but they didn't do any of that. Now we're 2 months out. We've got the same teaser that we've had since February. So, again, I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't know why there's no trailer. I think it will be at Comic-Con. They'll have a panel there, I think. So, we'll see. Again, so many people, even in the comments, right? Halo being destroyed, Star Trek, right?
Yeah, this
Picard,
just when I mentioned Halo, this kind of just became like a dunk fest on Halo,
and
which it's well deserved.
yeah, from what I've heard too. Like, it's too bad. Now, again, we have to remember it's not the same writers, not the same producers, not the same companies. And actually, a lot of Amazon's shows I do like. Right, The Boys season 3 is just doing so well. Invincible, I loved the first season of Invincible. Jack Reacher, that first season was just incredible and is really close to the books from what I've heard. I haven't read them, but the Jack Reacher
Uh,
books, but I've heard they're really good.
as far as those Amazon shows, like with well, I'm here with the nerd properties. So the four big shows on Amazon that I watched were Halo, or sorry, I watched Wheel of Time. This Lord of the Rings show is coming up here. The
Yeah,
Boys and Invincible. Those are like the four that I'm mainly focused on.
yeah,
And if all you're here for is them sticking to canon lore, I get out now, man, because
yeah.
now the Boys is very different
It
from the
is
Boys comics,
for
and
sure.
that's good because the Boys comics are not great. That's my
That,
subjective opinion. I'm
yeah,
like
I
they made
would.
a lot
I
of
know. Yeah, I'm hearing you.
in the Boys comics, a lot of the characters don't have any like changes or any growth throughout the entire series. It just feels like a lot of random jumping around for just like shock moments. Feels like
Yeah,
a bad Steam horror game with just a bunch of gore and jump scares. um,
yeah.
which I think that what they decided to do instead with this new story with Eric Kripke, like big fan of all that. So that's like, but that's going against the lore. So I
That's
would
true.
like,
But like you said, even I think actually a lot of people regard the lore like you say. It's like I don't think the boys comic books are like critically acclaimed by many people. They don't really. I think a lot of people would say that they like the show more than the comics. But the same cannot be said about Wheel of Time nor Tolkien, right? A lot of
no,
people
you're absolutely right.
love
And
these books.
Invincible, for the Invincible, it's mostly similar. We go through the main. There's some changes, but a lot of people are speculating that the things that they took out from the earlier episode. I've read all of Invincible. The things that they
Oh
took
yeah,
out, we're thinking that they're going to come in maybe in later seasons or maybe, but the Wheel of Time was the one that makes me nervous
for
because
sure.
I understand, and we've talked about it before, where Wheel of Time is absolutely massive. Okay, like the first
Yeah.
two Wheel of Time books, I think are more words than the entirety of Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And
massive.
there's 14 and a half Wheel of Time books. So like I can understand trying to fast track things or trying to, cut some content, but that wasn't what happened. They cut content and then they went to bring in their own content and it was just subpar. It wasn't as good. It wasn't as good as the things that they cut. That's what worries me about
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings. Now, granted, there's a lot less stuff to cut in the second age of Lord of the Rings because there's not a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
In my
Yeah, not
opinion,
explicitly, for sure,
like
not
there's a lot
expressing.
of space in between big events that you could make your own story,
Yeah.
but because the Wheel of Time stuff that they made was, in my opinion, just such a low quality compared to the original source material, I don't have a lot of faith with the Lord of the Rings show.
For
So
sure.
that's where most of my like anxiety comes from. I saw
Yeah.
some stuff here in these comments talking about like the reason we don't have a trailer is because it's not good. I don't think that's true at all. I honestly just think that they're waiting for something. I mean, granted, this you have to understand that this is a massive corporation. It doesn't think like a person does. They work on corporate schedules. They work on like monthly like calendar stuff with their own goals and their own they have to hit these certain things. All these cogs have to get hit in order for something to get done.
Yeah.
Working in a corporate office it's a new world. um, so my expectation is that they set the dates for when all the trailers were going to be released like a year ago, and we're just waiting on something. And who
Yeah.
knows? I would love to see a trailer that tells me something about the story more than just a bunch of slideshows of
Yeah.
various sets.
Yeah, and it's even like from that first picture we got around this time last year, maybe August last year, where it was, Galadriel and two trees and everything. I'm like, wait, they have the rights to that. They knew that that picture would blow so many people away. But then I'm like, wait a minute. Even if you do have the rights to that, why are we seeing it in this show about the Second Age? Like it would be awesome. I'm not complaining if I see the city Tyrion and I meet Finarfin and all of these characters, but that's them indicating that they have the rights to Finarfin of the Silmarillion, who's mentioned like 20, 30 times in the Silmarillion, like not that many times at all. And it's like, no way you guys have all these rights. And I don't even like they were saying in the comments too, it's like they don't even have all the rights to the Second Age. So a couple things, it's like, if they do a time compression, I've kind of gone back and forth on that, but I've landed at the fact of like, if they do a time compression in the Second Age, as long as they do it tastefully and for the right reasons, like to put the Rings of Power, the forging of the rings closer to the downfall of Númenor, that makes sense to me. Again, otherwise we'd have no man characters because they would just constantly be dying of mortality of just hundreds of years going by.
Yeah.
But that would make sense. But just for an adaptation, I don't know. Again, like I said at the beginning, it's like there's lots to be like these orcs, like the picture of Valinor and stuff. It's like, oh wow, it's lots to be curious and maybe even optimistic about. There's also a fair bit. I don't blame anyone for being pessimistic or cautious regarding this show, but I would just say we have to really give it a chance.
Yeah, my take is I have no problem if you're feeling like, hey guys, I'm really worried about this show. I'm not super excited about this show. That's totally fine, but I don't talk a lot of smack unless you're actually like willing to watch it.
Yeah, true. If you have something to back it up, it's like, oh, right. I have seen people it's all going to be awful. I don't want the echo chamber. Yeah, you're right. I don't want like it's just an echo chamber of, oh, I saw this and I didn't like what this person said about it, so I'm going to say that too. I want come up with your own reasons for that. Yeah. Who knows? There might be a lot of reasons to dislike this show, so get in there and yeah, absolutely. It's like
and find your reasons if they're there.
Some people who might say, oh, I already know the show's going to be bad. It's like, really? Wait, I didn't think the show was out yet. It's like, where did you get your early pass, right, to see it? It's like, oh, you didn't. The show's not out yet. Gotcha. And it's like, it's just, come up with your own reasons, but you have to have a substantive, like, argument for it. And to do that, you have to have citations. To do that, you have to kind of know the show, what they're doing in the show, And again, lots of other shows we can point to. I thought Kenobi was okay. I thought a lot of the Kenobi show was could have been written better, but parts were really good. Yet Kenobi isn't going to be Rings of Power. Again, a completely different crew. Sure, it's set, like, it was made in the same time frame as this show was made in, like, in the current day, but doesn't mean everything will be bad, doesn't mean everything will be good. It's just, I'm curious. Again, it's okay to have concerns and all of that, but because it's become this huge divisional issue, it's crazy. It's crazy.
It just kind of makes us not want to talk about it. Or at least me.
Yeah. No, same here. I mean, this is the first time you and I have openly talked much about it since, I want to say, the teaser in February.
Yeah.
Like on the main channel. Yeah, there's definitely a reason for that. Like, people might ask, what are your thoughts on this that come out? It's like, I don't even think I want to make a video on it because that's not why I became a YouTuber. That's not why I've done any of this, or that's not why I want to talk to Royan, like one of my best friends, about LOTRO classes and races and some.
Yeah, dude, I want to talk smack about the talk smack about some of these classes again. Yeah. Again, like when I'm talking about things like the Wheel of Time making me nervous, that's just an emotion for me. I'm that's not actually backing up with any like that's not an actual evidence. That's just the things that I've seen have created within me a hesitation for excitement, and that is basically only for me, and that's basically just, it's not like a real concrete piece of how we know what's going to come out of this Lord of the Rings on Prime show, this Rings of Power show. So, and I won't know anything about that till we see and even the first even the first episode, it could be great, it could be questionable. I remember being so hyped after the first episode of season 8 of Game of Thrones because I thought that they set up so many things that were going to be like exciting.
Yeah.
And then they never close any of those doors. So I was like,
Yeah.
left hanging like that. So
And
yeah, I really want to see. Obviously, I'll have an opinion based on every episode, just as the episode's going and as the season progresses. But I won't really know. For me, I'm gonna watch the entirety of season 1, and then that's when I start making decisions on whether or not I want to continue on seasons beyond, or what kind of attitude I'd bring to them. Because
yeah.
I've been surprised before. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, dude. The boys surprised me so much. It blew me out of the water.
Yeah, yeah, dude. Again, even Reacher, man. Like my parents were like, "Hey, come watch just the first 5-10 minutes," and then I'm like, "Wait, Reacher? He was so buff that he broke out of his little wrist bit, like his handcuff things. That's so cool." Like all of a sudden, I was just drawn in.
Reacher had every reason to be terrible, okay?
Yeah.
Just based on the books and based on everything surrounding it, Reacher had every reason for that show to be just complete dog. And it was honestly pretty great.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's just like we'll know I think after season like 1 really. I mean, if season 1's going to be 8 episodes, that's really going to be a fair amount of data to collect with Rings of Power before we kind of know. Yeah, because I try to hear out the criticisms that people give already, and just you have pretty much entire channels what seem like they're just dedicated to hating on the show, and I'm like, wow, have you guys seen it though? Oh no, we've seen the same trailers as everybody else. It's like, yeah, not everybody else is going this negative about it, or even alternatively that positive about it either. It's like just chill. It's gonna be fine. It's a TV show. They can't hurt our books. They can't hurt our Tolkien.
That's the biggest
we'll
part.
always have that.
If it's bad, you always have the power to just talk a little smack and then just let it go. And it doesn't have to impact life anymore. I will mention though, like just sitting here and the chat's popping off a little bit right now with some discourse about the show. But honestly, I love this community so much more than the general community surrounding a lot of this show, because there's the stuff that happens like in the big, like in the comment section of the trailer, for instance, like that stuff just makes me like hate humanity. But when I come here, the discourse, and there's a lot of criticism, there's some hopefulness, like it's just so much better. It seems like such a better like space here.
Yeah,
you guys are great, and thank you for being great.
Yeah, absolutely. Like thank you guys so much. Like I've always thought that the Tolkien community was definitely one of the best, and it has been a little hard to see it go through so many rough times recently, so many rough waters about the show and everything like that. But you guys were like, this community is really awesome, and I'm excited, Ryan, to sit down regardless of how the show is and make those reviews with you.
But if it's bad, we're gonna talk so much smack,
dude. We are. I'll make like
we're gonna roast it so hard.
And I'll be like, yeah, I had reasons to be optimistic, but no, this is trash. Or no, I had reasons to be optimistic, and actually this turned out really well. I'm hoping it's the latter. I still have that hope. There's always
break out the whiteboard for some of these.
Yeah, and that could be interesting too. Of like, here's what's different, right? I made a what's different series on Peter Jackson's films compared to the books, and
that could even be like a little segment that we do almost every episode. It's like, here's hopefully it doesn't get too long, but
I with what you said earlier, Ryan, of like, the second age doesn't have as much going on as like the third age or like the first age or whatever. It's like hopefully they're not making that many changes, but it's more going to be the additions. Do they fit the theme?
Yeah, so that's where I'm hoping a lot of things.
Yeah,
even I'm fine if they make changes so that they can make additions into having. So for instance, now Grant, I don't want this to start a big fight, but having Galadriel travel to Númenor.
Yeah,
that's a change. Okay, that's a change.
Yeah.
But if they're doing that so that in these empty years, like where there's just like nothing happening, we can have a well-written quality story in Númenor with Galadriel, like that's a good change. Because that the addition that it led to was good. Now, if they make a change so that they can either then just continue to keep changing things, Or if they make an addition and it's bad, then it's super disappointing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like Royan, I think so. If she's there, let's say it's right before the downfall of Númenor, or even like a couple decades before that. It's like in the 3200s of the Second Age.
Boxing a couple of decades like it's nothing, but in reality,
Yeah.
it kind of is nothing to all these Númenorians and elves.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking even of like how Ar-Pharazôn captured Sauron. It was like 50 years before the downfall of Númenor. Let's say it's around that time. So in the lore, she would just be hanging out in Athelond, in South Gondor, like that region. She's just hanging out there doing nothing with Celeborn and Celebrian. Like that is it. So it's like, yeah, why not? You know, she's just chilling. Might as well use this character that people know. It's like I understand that entirely, but yeah, Balrog.
But then
Oh,
then
sorry.
if they bring her there and then they do a lot of questionable stuff and they make like
Yeah.
a bad story, then
Yeah,
it's just, man, why didn't you just leave her there?
yeah, you have like Elendil flirting with Galadriel or something. It's like, no,
Ooh.
no,
Ooh,
stop.
get out of there.
So yeah, no, Balrog of Morgoth, I agree. It's just as toxic to accuse everyone who is worried of being toxic. I agree. There's definitely toxicity on both sides of this thing. It's like, and that's the roughest part, right? It's just that people take it so adamantly one way or another. It's like it's a show we equally all haven't seen yet. Even some of those creators that did go to the London event, it's like they've seen much more footage of the show than anyone else, I'm sure. But from what I've heard from my friends like Nerd of the Rings, but they've still not seen 20 minutes that were articulated probably for that audience, like that were put together for that audience from what I can tell. And so it's like,
Was
yeah.
it 20 minutes straight or did they make 20 minutes of clips?
Oh, I have no idea. From what I can tell, again, I have no inside information regarding any of this, but from what I can tell, it'd probably be clipped together. But it could maybe maybe I'm wrong. So
The clips would make more sense if they're trying not to like reveal a lot of stuff, but also show. But also, I totally understand. 20 minutes of clips just it's hard to kind of get super hyped about that,
yeah,
which would make a lot of sense with some of the news surrounding that group that went.
some of the reactions and such. Yeah.
I think it's so funny that they took 3 takes for that. I'm still laughing about that all these days later.
Oh yeah, well yeah, and that's something I've heard recently too. Is like from what people can tell, so when the teaser, I was talking about the London event at the end of April or early May,
okay.
I think.
We're on different pages then.
But no, well they did it twice really. They did it with that first group, and then another group of more Tolkien centric. But yeah, no, Royan was talking about that first group. Super fans they were called. I won't go too much. I'm sure they're great people. That was not shot very much in their favor. Like Amazon did not do them justice, in my opinion. That seemed to not help them and their images. But it seemed like I think there was multiple takes when they were filming these guys watching the trailer. I think that was released around the same time the trailer did come out, the teaser rather, and like. Apparently there were multiple takes of getting their reactions. I'm not sure that's what I've heard, and it's like, oh, it's
For the teaser
bad.
trailer, that was like, oh man, I already talked on the teaser trailer, so
Yeah. Well, and like Grimdark says, like Nerd of the Rings comment section from the London event is filled with those accusing him of being a shill. That's not true at all. Like he's a good friend of mine. I've talked to him since he had 100 subscribers. Like we've been good friends all the way through. He's a great guy. Nerd of the Rings, check him out if you guys aren't already subscribed to him. He's an awesome guy. He's not a shill at all. But again, as Guitar Didier says, it's just very bad marketing on Amazon's behalf. It just seems like a lot of the creators were left out to dry. And as a creator, that's just, especially one who's friends with a lot of these people, it's just upsetting. It's truly upsetting where it's like Amazon says, like, here's this event that you can't tell everybody about everything, but you can tell them about some things, and then tell them without telling them too much, tell them you like it, but tell them, it's like, what? It's either you can tell about things or you can't, but it's too bad. That marketing was just rough. So I feel bad for my creator friends for sure. Yeah, like Angel says, it's Tolkien professor Corey Olsen and others too. So for me, I'm just I'm trying to stay anonymous as Yoist, and I'm just trying to keep my YouTube life and my personal life a little bit separate, just because this channel isn't about me. That's why I've never done a face reveal, anything like that. I mean, I guess I've gotten close in my 100,000 subscriber video where I showed myself in a ranger outfit, but it didn't show my face or anything like that. I've remained anonymous, not just for like protection of my personal life or anything like that, but also for like just to be in the community. Like, I don't want any special access. I don't want anything like that. I just want to watch the episodes along with you guys and tell y'all what I think. I'm just a Tolkien fan with a mic, so yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. And Ryan, how do you think that went as a Rings of Power rant overall?
Well, we were at it for like 50 minutes or so.
Yeah. All right. That sounds like a typical podcast, honestly.
There's always one thing.
Yeah, always one thing that just Yeah, Angel says I have done an arm reveal. I have shown my tattoo, my Lord of the Rings tattoo, but
how about that?
Yeah. How about
Guys,
that?
it's just in. Yoisten has arms.
Dang it, Ryan! I didn't want them to know that. Oh my
Guys,
goodness.
you know what? This is Sin. I met him in person. He's got legs too.
No. Too much. It's too much.
Don't let that spread around though. Keep that between us.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah. So
all right.
I'm ready.
Ready to wrap it up.
If there's any other topics you want to talk about, if we want to take maybe a question or two before the end.
Yeah, we can take a couple questions.
So, you guys want to ask questions?
Yeah. We'll do another 10 minutes or so, I think, before we start wrapping it up. I know, Rosie Games. Yeah, I've got legs. It's crazy. Let's see. We'll do that. Yeah. We'll see how it all goes. Be a lot of fun making videos, at least, and talking about everything.
What about his legs? You don't need them.
Don't need them.
Meat's back on the menu.
Bungo Baggins. Does anyone know if Howard Shore is doing music for Rings of Power? Yep, Howard Shore and Bear McCreary, who did the God of War soundtrack amongst many others. But yeah, no.
The God of War soundtrack was awesome.
It's hype. It's so hype.
Big fan.
So hype. Thanks so much, Rosie. We appreciate it. Thank you all so much for being here. This has been like a ton of fun for sure. Yeah, we'll do. I'm trying to go back and forth, Royan, and like I'm trying to figure out. So if we do normal videos, like normal reviews, to where we kind of cut and edit it together, make it a little tighter, less of us rambling for the reviews, and then after the season we do a full like season lore review, which is a live stream, and then we just go all out. I mean,
that's great. That's great. I'm gonna do that.
Sweet. Okay. Versus like I know other channels will do live streams for every episode. I think for
that
us
sounds excessive.
It does. Like I think we'll just do a normal like review video, how we've done the other Rings of Power videos so far, and then at the end of the season we'll do a full wrap up review sort of thing.
Yeah. So that I like that kind of schedule as well.
Corey Ramsey, Meteor Man, a wizard, or Sauron? What's the betting odds? I'm really hoping it doesn't happen, but if it has to happen, if the Meteor Man has to be a thing, I feel like it'll be Sauron. Or some people are theorizing like Adar, like the Witch King looking guy, is the Witch King now. Like Royan, maybe you were right after all.
I was right on target the whole time.
It could be.
Everyone was like, "Dude, he's not the Witch King. Stop telling him he looks like the Witch King." All right. It's just his hand, but come on.
Yeah. It could be. I mean, we should see him. So.
I would honestly prefer if he was just their own character.
Oh yeah.
Just because with him falling from the sky, I don't know how I can attribute that to any other characters and make it at all work.
Fair.
So I honestly hope he's their own character, and
Yeah.
I don't know what they're gonna do with him.
No, and like everybody go follow Fellowship of Fans too, another good friend of the channel, and he's like the most reliable news source when it comes to Rings of Power, I would say. But from what I could piece together, so here's my worry. Okay, I'm just gonna throw this out there from what I've heard, from the conversations I've had with Fellowship of Fans and like the leaks and all that kind of stuff. I'm worried that Adar, this character who's I think he's being played by was it Benji from Game of Thrones?
Correct.
That he might be the brother of Galadriel, and he's going to be a corrupted, evil character, and it might
How
be.
the hell does he fall into media?
Good question. No idea.
Is it just tricks?
Just
Fire sorcery like Gandalf at the birthday party?
It might. It literally might be. It could be the Valar sent him to Middle Earth. It could be something like that. But I've heard that Adar might be Galadriel's brother. I don't know. Like, since they're doing these flashbacks to the First Age, and then the sword, that broken sword, which seems to be kind of a running symbol for the show, that might be his sword. I have no idea. But again, these are storylines that are not at all out of the story. But these are kind of the formulations I'm trying to make from the leaks that I'm just seeing on Twitter and all of that. Again, at Fellowship of Fans. But we'll see. Please stay close to the lore. It's right there. It's right there, and it's good. It's already written. It's so good. But any final questions here before we start wrapping some things up? JS about to start reading The Hobbit tomorrow. Very good. Have a fun time. That's such a good book to revisit. Just nice simple story and good characters.
Flows really.
It does. Yeah. Rosie Gamgee, I thought it was confirmed that Adar was Galadriel's brother. It could be confirmed. This is what I've seen as well. So, Angel says, I don't think Adar is Meteor Man, but I heard that Adar could be Galadriel's brother. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly who Meteor Man. That could very well be Sauron. Adar, I'm not sure. Uncle Benjen, that's his name. I'm not sure if Adar will be the antagonist or not. I'm not sure if Galadriel's brother will be a good guy or I have no idea what they're gonna do with it. Uncle Ben, classic. Brandon Spriggs, am I bugging or does this hill look like a face? Guys, that's my face reveal right there.
Oh my god, it does look like a face.
All this.
Look at it.
It does.
Like the rose bushes are like a little nose bridge.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't look at it without that anymore.
All this time, guys.
Oh, Brandon, what have you done?
I have shown you my face at the end of every episode of Men of the West, and you didn't know it. My face is a hobbit hole. Grimdark, is your girlfriend into the Legendarium at all, Yoyston? She is. She actually took a Tolkien class as well at her university. They didn't offer it at mine, but she took one at hers. And
your school sucks.
Yeah. Wait, did you say my school sucks?
I said your school sucks, bro.
Dang, dude.
Right.
Yeah, she's into it. She always asks me questions and I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. I cannot wait to tell you about this answer, you know? It's like she might ask me about the Elves of Lothlorien and I'm like, wow, I'm just the luckiest guy ever. Thanks, Angel. Corey Ramsey, Meteor Man will be a made-up wizard to team up with the pointless hobbits. I'll put money on it. The hobbits, I'm not sure about them. I don't know what they're... I've heard a lot of people say it's like, it won't feel like Lord of the Rings without hobbits. I get it. I get that, I guess. But it's where it's like, it should focus much more on the elves, for sure. I don't think it needs hobbits.
We had a Hobbit story, man. It's called The Lord of the Rings.
Exactly, and The Hobbit. My Tenuvial is based indeed. Thanks, Grimdark. Zrillia? Yoyson, if you could somehow ask the professor one question, what would it be? We actually answered this at the beginning of the podcast. If you want to go back after this is posted, but pretty much mine was what stories did Tolkien want to write or think about writing and left out of the Legendarium? Balrog of Morgoth. I've been reading the Silmarillion to my wife, and she really likes it so far. That is awesome. That's based, my guy. That is sweet.
You say based?
Yeah. Well, that's what Grimdark said. Angel Nerd of the Rings hates the fact that there are hobbits. You know, I don't blame him at all. For me, it's like, I don't know how far back the ancestors of the hobbits go, right? In Lord of the Rings Online, you go back to the Second Age during the War of the Last Alliance, and there are the Holbitla, like the ancestors of the hobbits, in their old Rohirrim name. And I'm like, they're actually kind of used well in that story. If this is like the hill that they're like, listen, this show just wouldn't be great without the hobbits. Like, we need some ancient hobbits in this story, otherwise it's all going to fall apart. First off, it shouldn't and it won't. Like, it really shouldn't if it's a good adaptation. But if that's the hill that they need for this to be legendary, then for me it's not a huge deal. But
that's what it takes to make the show good. Like, if that's what they need for the story to connect, all right.
Yeah.
Let's. I'll hear you out.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Ryan. Rox M says, more hobbits is like going back to Tatooine again. Love it, but enough. I understand exactly what you mean. Every Star Wars show, it opens, it's like, all right, we're back at, as my dad said, we're back at the center of the galaxy, it seems, Tatooine. It's like everything happens here. It's like, yeah, it does seem like that. Yeah, today, Amazon, they didn't release anything new, which is, Roy, and otherwise I would have told you, but they released a small 15-second, teaser. It said, thanks for reminding me, Jaina Solo, that nothing is evil in the beginning, and it shows, this big hand. I think it's Adar's hand with, the Hobbit hand. It's like, nothing is evil in the beginning. Jaina Solo says, gives me some hope that they do understand Tolkien's themes, and the marketing just sucks at conveying that. That's what I'm hoping, too. But I also hope, again, that they choose who they humanize very well. If they're going to humanize some orcs and stuff, doesn't really fit with the... And again, I don't want this to, ruin how people see The Lord of the Rings, where it's every orc at the Battle of Helm's Deep that was killed, right? All of those Ents just murdering those orcs. All of them had a family. They all had stories, homes that they won't be able to return to.
Once you begin to accept the random genocide, then you will join the Feanor Club. All right, you can join.
Oh no!
Inslaying, that's just a fancy word for killing, and we do that all the time. Come on.
Yeah, true. Honestly, though, Ryan has a point of if you all see orcs, if everybody has to see orcs as elves, then everything is just a kinslaying. Everything is killing elves, and it's no, those elves were already dead, pretty much, for all intents and purposes. They're all pretty much dead. Angel says, I'm pretty sure that Meteor Man was not Adar in that clip. Okay, good. Maybe I'm... Again, this is kind of my mind trying to piece things together. I'm hoping not. I'm hoping that those are two separate characters. Yep. Alrighty. The clip is from Amazon. It's on Twitter. I think their Prime account should have it. Oh no. Grimdark, no. My comment section quickly turned to Feanor. Ryan, what have you done?
I'm just showing people the truth.
The way.
This is the way.
This is the way. All right, everybody. Thanks to our Valor Tier patrons, Kyle Wetzel, Peter Sheppard, Jonathan Putnam, Mark Kralick, Blair Scouten, Merten, John Hume, Sam McBee, Matt Sibbach, Elizabeth Calvert, Maz Gibs, Rhys Jenkins, Adam Petrlik, Brandon Glidden, Molly Sullivan, Daniel Burns, Anthony, Harmon, Dorwin Gray, Arthur, and Merlin. Thank you all so much. Thanks to all of our patrons and YouTube members. Really means a lot to both Royan and I. Thank you all so much for 50 podcasts. Royan, my man, thank you so much for joining me for all these years. Here's to so many more podcasts. Sorry?
That's 50 in the bag.
50 in the bag. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Everybody, thank you all so much for being here. Nice 2-hour podcast. So this version will stay up on YouTube. I'm going to try to figure out how to adapt just an audio only version and post that on Patreon, because I know some people like to listen that way. But I'll do that. Hey, Grimdark Angel, thank you guys so much for moderating. Really appreciate it. That goes so far. It means a lot to us. Phil Regular, I'm not excited for this show, but thanks for all your videos, man. Hey, thank you so much for the super chat. I totally understand. Like Royan and I have been talking about, it's
we'll get through it together.
Yeah, we will get through it together regardless of it. And for my part, I have to give it a shot, and we'll see. We'll see how it turns out. But thank you all so much. Have a wonderful night. And my friends, until our next adventure.